And that night she was dead. So suddenly, everything I had worked for, signing a new contract, going into debt, going to see a counselor, taking meds, all out the window. My daughter got sick suddenly. The paramedics didn't know what the hell they were doing. She got to the hospital. As a father, as a parent, you have instincts. You can look at your child and you know when something's wrong. And I listened to that doctor and he told me all these things and I believed it even though I looked at my child and I knew what was wrong with her. She had been brain dead for over 4 hours already and they kept telling me she was going to be fine. They transferred her to a children's hospital. The children's hospital tells me she's neurologically devastated. She's gone. So I came to terms with that in a matter of hours. Did a brain test. In the state of Virginia, you have to fail 2 neurological exams in your brain before they can officially consider you dead and they unplug you from the machines. After she failed the first test, I told the doctor, I said, look, I don't want anybody else to make this decision for me. I don't want anybody else to unplug her. I will do it. I brought her into this life. I will take her out. So the nurse showed me how to disconnect her from the machines. And I held her neck really gently, and the machine that was pumping her lungs, that was keeping her body oxygenated, that was keeping her heart pumping, I took it out. And we scooped her up, and my wife and I held her until her heart stopped. After that, I wanted to go with her as far as I could. So I said, I don't care where the morgue is. I want to take her there. They asked for permission. They said yes. I scooped up my daughter, put pajamas on her. I didn't want her to get cold. Walked her across the hall, down an elevator, across another hall. And they had these giant freezer drawers in this room, big enough to fit a child. So we put a blanket down, laid her down, covered her in the blanket because I don't want to get cold. Celia as it seemed, we put a toe tag on her toe and that was it. So suddenly, I went from being in a matter of a year and a half after returning from Iraq, 27 different disabilities, almost $50,000 in debt, and no daughter. And I spent almost half her life serving my country away from her. So after that, the Army was great for like 90 days. They were fantastic. But before that, after we came home, we got home around 6 a.m. April 13th. At 11 a.m. that same day, the police were at the house to take everybody into custody and questioning. Because in the military, if anything happens to a child in a military installation, they automatically assume the parents were at fault. So we had to fill out testimony for 4.5 hours to pretty much say that we didn't kill our daughter. So fast forward 90 days, and all of a sudden I get a new supervisor and a new commander, and neither of them are married, neither of them have children. Everybody else did. My immediate supervisor didn't have the balls necessary to put his new supervisor into place when he told me the following. He said, I know it's been tough, and I know it's been a few months, but I need you to suck it up and get back to work next month. I need you to perform just like everybody else is out there performing. And oh, by the way, you have an evaluation you need to do so that you can recertify as an instructor, otherwise you lose your qualification. And I took the test, which is basically standing in front of a class of new AIT soldiers and giving a 45-minute block of instruction and maintaining at least an 87% score. Immediately after I was done, I walked out of the class and I had a huge breakdown. I called the commander and I told him, you know what, you don't get to tell me when to suck up my grieving or the death of my daughter. I want out. But you have to understand, I had already signed to do 20 years. And I was already almost at 15 years. So as a result of that, I had to answer questions from the lowest level, almost to the highest level, quite literally, to justify why I wanted to leave the military. So finally, they approved my paperwork, and on March 14th, 2011, I was finally out. But because I had signed up to do 20 years, they repoed my last paycheck for a bonus that they had paid me. And they said that I still owed them $2,900. So now I'm a little over $51,000 in debt because of things the military would not cover, a paycheck they repoed, and my daughter, who paid, very few people serve in the military and their child pays the price, and that's what I did. So I left. I got out of the Army, and that summer I worked as a lifeguard, and I was wondering what to do with my life. And I felt a really, really strong calling. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what it was, but I felt it. I called a bunch of friends, I tried to form my own group, and around that exact same time, Occupy started. And I felt this pull, and I told my wife, I was like, man, this is exactly where I feel I need to be. So overnight, I got on a train and I went to Zuccotti Park. Immediately they thought I was an infiltrator because I stand up straight, I have good speech, I don't stutter, I have a clean haircut, and I was decently fit. Those were the justifications, but it doesn't matter. So I came back home. I told my wife, I said, look, this is what I feel I was meant to do now, and I have to leave and I have to do this. So I sold my possessions, I gave the other half away, sold my car, and I left my wife and my home to come do this full time. And since January 7th, this is what I've been doing, this is what I've been living. I have endured God knows how much, and I have sacrificed God knows how much to be here in front of you today, to let you know that it doesn't matter how challenging it is. It doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter what strife and turmoil and trouble that we all have to endure. The key is to not quit. The key is to do exactly what I do every day. Every morning I have to wrestle with the fact that the life that I chose is gone. That the child I once had I will never see again until I die. And every morning I have to come to grips with the fact that this is my new life, and the life that I chose for myself will no longer exist. And every morning I choose to put everything else aside and focus on the big picture, because quite simply there are two things we have to do. We have to change this country and we have to save the world. And it's really no less than that. And it may sound simple, but the very first thing that we need to do, and the only thing that really matters, honestly, before we can accomplish anything else, is we have to get past ourselves. Whatever you've endured, whatever you have to overcome, whatever hatred you have to let go, whatever addictions you have to let go, whatever depression is ailing you, look to the people left and right of you that are standing here, sitting here right now. Look to them for strength and do what I do. Let it all go, focus on the big picture, and I guarantee you that if we succeed, I no longer have to look into a picture like it was presented earlier and watch other people's children die because of every day that we fail, to save ourselves and our fellow brothers and sisters. You cannot understand what it's like to have to watch other people carry their child as a result of a drone attack when I used to sleep hundreds of yards from where the UAVs, when those drones used to fly in Iraq. The only flashback I've ever had was in Hawaii. I was laying in the couch one day taking a nap shortly after I came back, and somebody outside was with a weed eater. The weed eater sounded just like a drone winding up. I woke up, and for the next few seconds I could have sworn I was back in Iraq next to the flight line sleeping, listening to the UAVs wind up and take off. And that's the only major flashback I've ever had. And if I had known then what I know now as far as what they were doing and who they were killing, I guarantee you I'd be in prison right now for sabotage, having experienced what I've experienced. And that's all I have to say.